ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति 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 Sai Ram Om Sai Baba Jai Ho Sai Ram. I am starting my third video and I start with the conception of divine consciousness. See, the word divine indicates God and Atma, and everything connected with God and Atma is known as divine, and the power of Atma and God is known as divinity. And this divine consciousness is our Atma. It is divine because Atma is directly part and parcel of God. So, our Atma is known as divine consciousness. To begin with, you must know who you really are. Are you the body? If you are the body, then why do you say this is my body? That means this body is possessed by other than the body. See, since you call it my body, that means the possessor of this body is someone else other than body. You must be something different from the body. When you say my heart, then that means that you are something different from your heart. Your heart is an object possessed by you, its owner. You declare, this is my brother, this is my sister, this is my mind, my body, my intellect. The unchanging element in all of these declaration is my. So my means the possessor adjective of I-ness. I. I am the Atma. And anything belonging to me is, that means I am the possessor, and this possessive nature is indicated by the word my. So my is connected to I, and my indicates possession. There is a true I, and in everything which stands behind this little my and gives rise to it. So it is really the deepest consciousness in everyone and in everything. It is the universal I, the divine consciousness. This divine consciousness is all pervading. It is within you, around you, below you, above you, and beside you. Truly, it is the you. Dear friends, know the reality. Your Atma is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. God is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. So that means God and Atma, there is no difference. There is no difference. Please try to understand this. This divine consciousness can be found everywhere in everything in the world. Why we are not able to understand this infinite nature of our Atma? Because it is covered by Maya, covered by mind, and covered by ego. Ego and mind both are finite. So, because we see through the eye of ego and mind, so we are completely forgetting our Atma. So, You must become inner directed and search out your own truth. So, you must realize that the mind must be turned inwards. You must become inner directed and search out your own truth. You must realize that you are not this, you are not that. You are not the mind, you are not the body, you are not the intellect. Then who are you? The answer comes I am I. This is the right path to follow for self realization. This can only develop when you follow the path of love, the path of devotion. To search for God, there is no other way. My dear friend, path of love means love your Atma. Path of devotion means your you as ego. Surrender to Atma. That is the path of devotion. Who am I? Indulge in self inquiry. That is the direct path. Or surrender. Surrender your ego and mind to the Atma. That is the path of devotion. To search for God, there is no other way. Search your Atma, you are searching God alone. Everywhere you look, the formless has taken on forms. God is present everywhere. But in order that you may comprehend Him, He has taken on a particular name and form. He is everywhere as the formless divinity. But before you can get that realization, you have to develop your love and devotion for the Lord with form. Therefore, in the beginning, you enter the devotional path at the lowest rung and worship the Lord with the name and form. Then, steadily, inch by inch, you rise to a higher state. You withdraw your mind from the external world and worship the formless until finally you realize your own reality as the formless divine principle that is self realization. Dear friends, you worship your chosen deity. Finally, you have to reach the state where you directly worship your Atma. Prior to that, you worship your chosen deity, chosen God, chosen any divine entity you may like. You may worship Shirdi Sai Baba, you may worship Christ, you may worship Gautam Buddha, you may worship Guru Nanak Dev, any divine personality you can. But finally, a stage comes, you will worship your Atma and see both Atma and God through the worship of Atma. So, path of self inquiry and path of surrender both are the same. Work and worship. Work, worship, and wisdom. Without flowers, you cannot have fruits. The maturation of the flowers into the unripe fruits and then into the ripe fruits is the path of self realization. The flowering stage is the path of service. See, we do service, we serve the poor people and all. What is the result? Our mind, ego are purified. Because pure mind only can see the Atma. Remember this. You serve the needy, serve the destitute, serve the poor people. Huh? Baba used to say, serve all, hurt, serve ever, hurt never. Never hurt anybody. If you can, serve everybody, but never hurt anybody. If you cannot serve, at least do not hurt. When it progresses to the unripe fruit, it is the path of devotion. When the fruits become ripe and full of the sweet nectar of wisdom, then it becomes the path of self-knowledge. At that point, the flowers of good works and service have transformed themselves through love and devotion into the sweet fruits of wisdom. Therefore, good works lead naturally to worship and detachment and on to wisdom on the spiritual path. It is not enough to just worship. You must also engage in good works. But your works become worship when you steep every deed with love for the Lord and offer all your works to Him. See, some of my friends they ask me, why do I simultaneously study the literature of Ramakrishna Paramhansa, Sathya Sai, Baba, and Maharshi Ramana? Then I explain, my dear friends, absolutely there is no difference because truth is one. We may name it any form, but truth is one. God is one, Atma is one. So, teachings of Ramakrishna, Paramhansa, Vivekananda, Maharishi Ramana, Sathya Sai Baba, just the same. Only thing, my dear friends, you only follow either Ramakrishna, Paramhansa, or Vivekananda, or Maharshi Ramana, or Sathya Sai Baba. But I know exactly there is no difference because they are divine sages. Divinity has progressed to the highest level to these sages. So there is no difference. So I am simultaneously giving videos on Maharshi Ramana and Sathya Sai Baba, and soon I will start videos on teachings of Vivekananda and Ramakrishna Paramhansa because there is no difference. I read Upanishad, I read Gita, I read Brahma Sutra, I read Darshan Shastra, so I find the divinity is one, truth is one, there is no difference. So, know it. The fact is, there is no difference. When we start differentiating, we are deviating from the path of divinity. Truth is one. See, Baba is same thing I tell you. I just tell you in advance. And exactly the same next word is truth is one. But the sages call it by many names. Oh, my dear friends, Baba is putting words on my tongue. The divinity is one. But many names are used to speak of this one absolute really. Oh, my dear Baba, you are really God incarnate or God. Wow. From the one come the many. When a child is born, it is called a baby. As it grows up, it becomes a youth. After 20 years, it becomes an adult, and later a parent. Later, still in life, it becomes a grandparent, but these are all one and the same entity. Similarly, the ultimate reality is always one and the same. When you realize this unity and remain firmly established in one divinity, always one and the same. When you realize this unity and remain firmly established in the one divinity underlying all the changing names and forms, you will have achieved something that is truly worthless. Extinction of delusion. Have a clear understanding of the Gita in your heart. What is the essence of the Gita teachings? Some say that it is the path of service and action, and others say it is the path of love and devotion. Still others say that it is the path of knowledge and wisdom. My dear friend, there is no difference between the path of devotion, path of knowledge, no difference at all. But these are all partial truths. The Gita starts with a verse whose first word is dharma, which means duty or right action. The concluding verse of the Gita ends with the word my. When these words are taken together, they become my duty or my work. That summarizes the whole teaching of the Gita. It means you should perform your prescribed duty to the very limits of the human capacity for excellence and perfection, doing the work that is appropriate to your stage of life. When you are a student, study your lessons well. When you are a householder, perform your work and family responsibilities properly. When you are retired, perform the duties appropriate to that stage. And if you have renounced the world to engage yourself in contemplation of the reality, then stick to that path. When you follow your prescribed duty in the very best way possible, discharging your duties sincerely and conscientiously, then there will be no confusion or misery. Arjuna had to perform his duty on the battlefield. His calling was to be a warrior and to combat evil and protect the good. But when he saw his friends and relations arrayed on both sides of the battlefield, he forgot his strong resolve to fight for right and fight for which he had been preparing for so long. He became full of attachments and delusion and threw down his bow. He abandoned his duty and became miserable. Krishna taught Arjuna how to free himself from despair by adhering to his prescribed duty. Krishna taught Arjuna the truth of the immortal self and showed him that his duty was to follow the inner promptings of the Lord, who was enshrined in his heart. When Krishna finished his teachings, he asked Arjuna, have your attachments and delusions disappeared? Has your have your attachments and delusions disappeared? Arjuna picked up his bow and answered, my despair has completely vanished. All my delusion is now gone. I will do as you command. As long as you have delusion, you will be in a state of bondage. When you suffer from delusion and infatuation, liberation is impossible. Liberation has nothing to do with worldly pleasures. It is not an air conditioned car or a comfortable life. It is the complete destruction of delusion. It is the extinction of all worldly attachments, the in, annihilation of all selfish desires. From now on, do your duty to perfection and become ideals for mankind. Apply the teachings of the Gita in your daily life and be blessed with grace. Many of you are just wasting your time. Start today to reform yourself. Do not waste time. Time is God. Every day spend some time on these holy teachings and contemplate their inner meanings. Once they are understood, put them into practice. Only in this way will you be able to attach a sacred life, a life of purity and perfection, which is the mark of a true human being. Surrender. Try to understand surrender. Exactly, the meaning of surrender is your ego is surrendering to your Atma or Paramatma. That is the actual meaning of surrender. Krishna declared in the Gita, if you surrender yourself fully to me and take shelter in me, you will be protected by me. See, surrendering to Atma or God is same because Atma and Paramatma are not two different entities. I will drive away your sins and guide you towards self realization. You must treasure this statement in your heart. Steadfastly follow the path of surrender to the Lord, and He will look after you and take you to Him. God's power is immeasurable, unlimited. The huge diversity you see when you look out at the universe is all the result of the illusory power of God. Illusory power of God is Maya. The physical universe visible to your human eye is just very small part of the infinite power of the Lord. All the worlds can be covered by a fraction of the foot of the Lord. It is impossible to understand the greatness of the Lord. He pervades the entire universe, gross and subtle. No place exists where he is not. The universe is the body of God. He has embodied himself in the creation. To understand the divine principle on which the universe rests, you can begin by considering the vast size of the universe. The moon is hundreds of thousands of miles away from the earth. The sun is many tens of millions of miles away. Even the nearest of star is millions upon millions of miles away, and beyond that, in the furthest reaches of the visible universe, there are stars and that are still billions of times further away. But all of this, which constitutes the physical universe and which to our limited view is so infinitely vast, is only the minutest part of the subtle universe. Compared to this subtle universe, the whole grand physical universe is no more than the size of an atom. The subtle universe, which is so indescribably huge when compared to the physical universe, is itself only a microscopic part of a much, much vaster aspect of the universe, which can be described as the casual universe. It is known as the casual universe because it is out of this finest aspect that the gross and subtle worlds arise. All of these three worlds, the physical, the subtle or mental, and the causal, are so enormously big. The scriptures have declared that they cannot possibly be understood by the human mind or depicted in words. They are beyond the imagination, beyond the ability of the mind to grasp. And yet, beyond all these, transcending the gross, the subtle, and the causal, is the divine principle, the ultimate cause of all. The path of devotion. God is beyond the gross, the subtle, and the causal, but as Lord, He rules over all of them. He is the master of time, past, present, future. Human beings have been given limited capacities and may find it very difficult to understand this divine principle. In that case, the easiest path to follow is the path of devotion. This is what Krishna taught Arjuna. Krishna described the path of devotion in three steps. First and foremost is work for God. You may not be aware of it, but every bit of work you do is already being done for God. He is the supreme master of this world, and everything in this world belongs to Him. Knowing this, consciously make every action you undertake an offering to God. Devote all your labors to Him while being ever mindful that God is not outside of you. The second step is for the sake of God alone. Up to this point, you have been thinking only about yourself. But who are you? Who is this I that you use to refer to yourself? Krishna said, it is I. Who am I shining in you? This word I does not belong to the body, neither to your own body nor to Krishna's. This I emanates from the highest self, the immortal self, the Atma. This I should not be equated with the body or the mind or the intuitive faculty or any other aspect of the individual. It transcends the limited personal self of the individual. This relates only to the unlimited impersonal self, the divine self, and which is the real self of everyone. See, when you watch or listen my videos, please pray Baba to give you full understanding. Baba will help you. Baba will help you because you have direct contact to Baba. If you believe, belief is the real power which connects us with God. Belief, faith. The limited personal self, by calling itself I, has associated itself with the universal. But the personal self is not the real self, it is merely a reflection of the one immortal. See, the personal self is ego. Please try to understand the words, then only you will understand. It is merely a reflection of the one immortal divine. See, sometimes we receive our desired thing, we become happy. You know where from this happiness comes? It comes from the Atma. Because Atma is nothing but happiness. Atma is nothing but Ananda. Atma is nothing but bliss. So whenever we feel some sort of pleasant moment or we become very happy, delightful, that means this happiness is reflected from the Atma. Because the very nature of Atma is bliss, happiness, and peace. So, happiness is not given by the desired object. This happiness is just reflection from the Atma. Perform all your actions on my behalf, act as my agent. This me or my or I, which Krishna is speaking of, is not God outside of yourself. It refers to the Atma, your divine self. Do everything you do for the sake of God alone. of yourself. It refers to the Atma, your divine self. Do everything you do for the sake of God alone, who is none other than your highest self. So, dear friends, in my video, I have written direct path to liberation. Can there be any other teaching which is so easy, so clear? Can there be any other teaching? Our Upanishad also teach the same thing. You read any Upanishad, Mandukya, Mundaka, Titriyo, Kathopanishad, Brihadaranyaka, any, you will find the same thing, my dear friends. Read the scriptures of Adi Sankara. You will find the same thing. Go through the Brahma Sutra. You will find the same thing. Go through the six darshanas. You will find the same thing. It is so easy, I tell you, but actually, we never try. The third step is be devoted only to God. If your ego is devoted to yourself, that means you are devoted to God. The third step is be devoted only to God. Understand the inner secret of this directive. Devotion is the expression of love and the emotion which is God. Love emanates from God, your highest self. What is your highest self? Your Atma. Love comes from God is and is directed towards God. Love has nothing at all to do with worldly feelings and secular things. Dear friends, already in the other video I had told you, divine love is loving yourself, loving your Atma, loving God. Rest everything is lust. Love, which is just another word for devotion, is the very name of your highest self. Your Atma is the divine love. This principle of love emanating from the core of your heart must saturate every action and word and thought. This will happen when you think that everything you do, say, or think is for the satisfaction of God alone. Your highest self is God. In In the waking state, you may think that you are doing everything for the sake of your body and mind, but in deep sleep, you are not conscious of your body or your mind. Then, for whose sake are you enjoying the rest and peace of sleep? It is for the sake of yourself, means your Atma. Sleeping, taking food, all the various activities of your daily life are performed only out of love for yourself, love for your Atma. You believe that you are doing all these for your personal self, which you experience to be separate from God, but the I that you call yourself really emerges from your highest self, which is no different from God. Whatever you do out of love for yourself reaches your highest self and therefore reaches God. So you must do everything with the awareness that whatever action you undertake, good or bad, will certainly reach God. Devotion means making all your actions sacred and dedicating them to God alone. In the ancient scripture, we find a conversation between a sage and his wife. I have given this conversation, that is, conversation between sage Yajvalkya and his wife Maitreyi, in which the sage explained these inner meanings to his wife. See, the same thing is explained in very elaborated way. You can see these videos in my channel. He said to her, Yagvalkya said to his wife Maitreyi, for whose sake are you loving me? If you examine your deepest intentions, you will discover that it is for your itself, for yourself. The wife does not love the husband for the husband's sake. It is for herself that she loves the husband, and that self is the true self, her highest self, God. You may think that the mother loves the child for the sake of the child, but it is not so. It is for herself that she loves the child. Again, it is for her highest self. You may feel that the teacher loves the student for the student's sake, but it is really for the teacher's sake that he loves the student. Similarly, the devotee does not love God for God's sake, it is really for himself that he loves God. See, why I am giving, different types of videos, because you will find the same teaching. You go for samvad between this conversation between Maitreyi or Yagnvalkaya, or Gargi and Yagnvalkaya. Huh? You will have the same teachings, same. Everything is same. Because truth is one. Truth cannot be just described in different ways. Truth follows the absolute one true path. Simple. Then I have given already this conversation between Svet Ketu and his father, Uddalka. So, the unlimited power of God. If you want a little breeze, you may take a hand fan and wave it so that you get a little air. On the other hand, when there is a powerful whirlwind, you find very big waves crashing against the shore of the ocean and even huge trees being uprooted. The breeze you can get from a hand fan will be very limited, but the power of God is tremendous, it is unlimited. Consider some other examples. When you try to draw water from a well, you can draw only a very small quantity. But when there is a heavy downpour, streams will become rushing, rivers will which join together in one great flood. One comes from the limited power of man, the other comes from the unlimited power of God. Take the example of wanting some light in your house. You may light a candle or switch on an electric lamp, but at dawn, when the sun rises, the whole city and forest will soon be flooded with the sun's light. The little light of your lamp is very weak compared to the splendor of the sun shining magnificently everywhere. Again, this is the unlimited power of God compared to the limited power of man. How can you reach this unlimited power of God? How can the limited capacity of a human being be transformed into the unlimited capacity of God? The means is surrender. The Lord has declared in the Gita, I will destroy all your sins and raise you to the supreme position, which is my own. How can that happen? The physical world that you see with your human eyes is the gross aspect of the universe. When this gross aspect takes a subtle form in the mind, you have the subtle universe. And when the mental takes a still finer and more subtle form in the heart, then you have the causal universe. The infinite Lord is beyond all these. He is the biggest of the big, but He takes the form of the smallest of the small and installs Himself in the very heart of the devotee, deep in the causal aspect. The wonderful truth is that such a vast, unlimited, and powerful Lord allows Himself to be imprisoned in the heart of the devotee. Here is a story to illustrate this. The devotee is even greater than God. Once upon a time, says Narada came into the presence of the Lord. The Lord asked him, Narada, in all your travels through the world, have you been able to discover the principal secret of the universe? Have you been able to understand the mystery behind this world? Everywhere you look, you see the five great elements earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Which do you think occupies the first place of everything that is be found in the universe? What is the most important of all? Narada thought for a while and then answered, Lord of the five elements, the densest, biggest, and most important is surely the earth element. The Lord answered, how can the earth element be biggest when three-fourths of the earth is covered by water and only one-fourth is land? Such a big earth is being swallowed by the water. What is the bigger? The thing that is being swallowed or that which is swallowing it. Narada acknowledged that water must be bigger because it had swallowed the earth. The Lord continued his questioning. He said, But Narada, we have the ancient tale that when the demons hid in the waters, then in the order to find them, a great sage came and swallowed up the whole ocean in one gulp. Do you think the sage is greater or the ocean is greater? Narada had to agree that without doubt the sage was certainly greater than the water he had swallowed. But continued the Lord, it is said that when he left his earthly body, the same sage became a star in the heaven. Such a great sage is now appearing only as a small star in the vast expanse of this sky. Then what do you think is bigger? Is it the sage or is it the sky that is bigger? Narada answered, Swami, the sky is surely bigger than the sage. Then the Lord asked, Yet we know that one time when the Lord came as avatar and incarnated in a dwarf body, he expanded himself so hugely that he was able to cover both the earth and the sky with his one foot. Do you think God's foot is bigger or the sky? Oh, God's foot is certainly bigger. Narada replied, but the Lord asked, if God's foot is so big, then what about his infinite form? Now Narada felt that he had come to the final conclusion. Yes, he said exultantly, the Lord is the biggest of all. He is infinite beyond measure. In all the world, there is nothing greater than He. But the Lord had still one more question. What about the devotee who has been able to imprison this infinite Lord within his own heart? Now tell me, Narada, who is greater, the devotee who has the Lord locked up, or the Lord who is locked up by the devotee? Narada had to admit that the devotee was even greater than the Lord, and that therefore the devotee must rank first in the importance over everything, surpassing even the Lord. You can bind God with the power of love. Such an enormous power which can bind even God is within the scope of every devotee. Whatever be the immensity and capacity of any power, however magnificent it may be, if it is bound by everything else, then that which binds it must be considered more powerful. The awesome power of God has been bound by the power of love. Therefore, in this path of devotion, you can tie up the Lord Himself and keep Him locked in your heart. If you take a drop of water from the ocean and keep it in the palm of your hand, compared with the ocean, the drop appears very, very small. But put that same drop of water back into the ocean and it becomes a part of the infinite ocean. If your smallness as a human being is joined together with the vast power of the Lord, you become infinite and all powerful. You become one with God. In the scriptures it is said, the knower of God verily becomes God. In other words, the very process of knowing God merges you into oneness with God. This process, which joins God and you together, is called the path of devotion. Unfortunately, many people today choose not to even recognize God. Instead, they prefer to rely on their own limited strength and to be impressed only by human achievement. They are prepared to bend low before a village officer or a petty government official, but they refuse to show humility and obedience to the all powerful cosmic personality who is the master of the universe. God, who is the origin and cause of everything seen and unseen, is being ignored. The reason for this sad state is that very few have been able to understand the underlying truth behind this vast manifested universe. If they were to see that everything is but a reflection of the one divinity, they would never follow the wrong path. If you have a wish fulfilling tree in your courtyard, why search for wild fruits in the forest? If you have the all giving celestial cow in your house, why wander around the marketplace looking for milk to buy? If you recognize the unlimited benefits you derive from having the celestial cow, you would never look elsewhere and get caught up in the trivial pursuits. For little minds, even small things look very big. You get what you deserve. Think little and you become little. Little thoughts breed little natures. You are attracted by small things because you think that your power is limited. But truly speaking, your power is unlimited. From duality to non duality, you remain small by identifying yourself with the body. You think I am the body. This thought keeps you in a state of littleness. But expand your view from I am the body to I am the soul, the spark of divine. In this way, rise up from the stage of dualism to the intermediary stage of qualified non-dualism. Then you must expand further from I am the soul, a part of the divine, to I am the divinity itself. I am no different from God. God and I are always one. That is the highest spiritual stage, the stage of complete non-dualism. Non-dualism means Atma and God are not different but one entity. So that is known as Advaita Vedanta principle. Non-dualism. Not two but single. The feeling you start with that you are the body is steeped in dualism. It is the very birthplace of sorrow. As long as you are immersed in duality, everything is sorrow and grief. If you identify yourself with the Supreme Self, everything will be happiness and joy. So, non duality means Atma and God are one. Duality means Atma and God are different and we suffer. Miseries come in unlimited quantity. You must elevate your thinking and always identify yourself with your highest self, thus giving up the false identification with the body. This is the proper attitude for worship. Worship in Sanskrit is called upasana, which means sitting near to God. There is there anything more near other than God? Because God and Atma are together, that means there is no separation, no distance. So God is the nearest to us, nearest. But it is not enough to just sit close by and near. The frog sits on the lotus, but does it benefit from the sweet nectar that is in the lotus? Just being near the Lord is of no use. You must also be dear to Him. You must be able to taste the honey. Your neighbors may be very near to you, but you do not get too deeply affected by whatever problems and difficulties they may be experiencing. Compared with this, if your husband or son is half a world away and you do not get a letter for even 1 week, you begin to worry. In this case, the body is far away, but your mutual love makes you near and dear. Your relationship with your neighbors is not changed with the same love, although they are very near. Consider another example. In a house, there may be some mice and ants running around. Do you call them your friends? Along with physical nearness, there must also be dearness. A deep feeling of love must develop and permeate the relationship. You must be near and dear to the Lord. Near and dear. What benefit will you derive by being near and dear? If you sit close to a lamp, you get light, and with the help of its illumination, you are able to do some useful activities at night. If you sit under a fan, you get a cool breeze, and the heat that was causing you discomfort will be dispelled. During the cold season of the year, if you sit near a fire, you will be protected from the cold which may be bothering you then. In each case, one quantity is removed and another takes its place. Similarly, if you are close to the Lord, if you become dear to Him, then you will get His love, and soon all the bad qualities in you will vanish away and be replaced by the good qualities that God embodies. Develop your love so that you may get every near and near and dearer and dearer to God. The easiest way to get closer to God is to remember Him in whatever you see. Whatever you say and whatever you do, think only of God and how to get nearest and dearer to Him. On the path of devotion, it is not enough for you to love God, but you must also engage in activities which are pleasing to the Lord so that you can evoke God's love and feel His love for you. There are a number of characteristics that a devotee should possess, which will endear him to the Lord. Treat censure or praise, heat or cold, profit or loss, joy and sorrow, honor or dishonor, or any of the other pairs of opposites with an equal mind. Do not get dejected when you are criticized or elated when you are praised. Do not be overjoyed by profit or come to grief when there is loss. Treat heat and cold with an equal attitude. They can both be a source of joy to you. During the winter, warm clothing will be desirable, and being near a source of heat will give you comfort from the cold. But during the summer, you will want thin clothes and you will welcome the cold. Heat gives you joy sometimes, cold gives you joy at other times. The way you use them determines whether you experience this joy or not. Heat and cold, profit and loss, and in fact, all the various pairs of opposites and everything else in the world have their usefulness. Everything has been created for a purpose, but you need to use them in a way which is appropriate to your life and your stage of development. So no hatred towards any being. It would be utter foolishness to give a golden cup to a child or to give a sword to a madman. A golden cup which is highly valuable should be given only to a person who would appreciate its value. Such a person will derive great joy from it and know how to use it. In the same way, the one who knows the value of devotion will use it to fill himself and others with the pure joy. Genuine love will never give trouble to anyone. It will never lead one to hate another. In the 12th chapter of the Gita, the desirable qualities of a devotee are enumerated. They start with, let there be no enmity directed towards any creature in the world. Repeating parrot like, Lord, I love you, Lord, I love you, while at the same time giving trouble to others cannot be considered a devotion. You become a devotee filled with love and devotion when you surrender yourself completely and are ready to carry out every command of the Lord. Arjuna, out of pride and egoism, was feeling dejected, but after listening to the Lord, Arjuna felt the divine fit and said, Lord, I am your disciple. Teach me what is good for me. I surrender myself fully to you. Up until that time, they were treating each other as brother-in-law. Arjuna was married to Krishna's sister Subhadra. But once Arjuna said, I will do as you say, I will carry out your commands, he became a devotee. The transformation took place in his mind as he changed the relationship from a brother-in-law to that of a disciple with the Lord as his teacher. Such a mental transformation is absolutely essential for a devotee. Without this, whatever level of closeness you feel you may have developed with the Lord, your devotion will remain fruitless and useless. Being aware of these high principles, do your duty in life, maintain an even mind, and make sure that the work you do is good and that it is always appropriate to the occasion. These verses from the Gita should not merely be memorized, but they must be put into practice. When you fully understand their meaning and practice them in your daily life, your worries will soon leave you and all your sorrows will disappear. Earning God's love. The Lord said in the Gita, develop steady and unwavering devotion for me, and you will become very dear to me. So, we have to understand the basic. meaning of each and every word, then only these teachings will be understood by us, and these teachings will be easy for us to for a follow up action. So Baba has given his Brahma Vidya, knowledge of the self, or Atam Vidya, through these discourses. Because in 1984 there were riots all over the